Welcome back to Rev It Up Bowling. My name is Jason Robarge, and today we're going to be answering your guys' questions. What we're going to be doing, like I mentioned, is going through our comments, just picking a few out, talking about them, and hopefully you guys can get some good information from it. This is going to be going back probably about 2 months or so. We've answered some comments between then, but there's quite a few that we haven't answered, so I do apologize. The first comment, which is going to be easy, is what program were we using in order to video ourselves and break it down using slow-mo and all that stuff. The app is called OnForm. There's paid and unpaid versions of it. They're really good, especially for me as a coach. I do lessons and all sorts of stuff like that. It's easy to build a profile and keep everything sorted for my customers. I appreciate that. What do you mean by burn or flip versus roll? If we're talking about the lane itself, it really just means that they have been bowled on quite a bit and there is a lot less volume than there was originally. When we talk about burn, typically we're talking about lanes that are broke down. This is, there's transition, and technically transition never stops, but we do get to a point where we do call it burn, where we're probably gonna be really far left or using really, really weak bowling balls because they just don't hook as much because there's so much friction out there, or burn. Flip versus roll. A flip is basically, we're trying to describe a ball that has length and flips or responds quite quickly. Basically, think of flipping as responding quickly. When that ball makes its transition, it's going to do it in a very, very quick motion. Versus roll, it's going to be a lot more elongated. It's going to take more time. It's going to take more feet for that ball to roll through its transition. So basically think of flip and roll as flip is quick, roll is a lot slower to transition. This is on the Hammer Scorpion Low Flare. Is the ARSON Low Flare similar to the Scorpion Low Flare? It's been years since I threw my ARSON Low Flare. I mean, that thing came out probably close to a decade ago, if not maybe a little bit more. I saw some comparisons for sure. I mean, the biggest comparison for sure is they don't flare a lot, very low differentials, so a little bit cleaner of a bowling ball. I could see them be pretty similar. My ARSON, I think, was, man, I was such a different bowler back then, but I'd say they're pretty close. I mean, I think the Scorpion cover was a little stronger, so it may be a little earlier, a little smoother, but in general, they're pretty close. What are the best errors to use urethane? Honestly, urethane is a bowling ball that's really good front to back. A lot of guys like to play straighter angles with them. I would say think of it more as straighter angles, meaning you're playing more up the lane, you're playing a front to back shape, you're keeping the ball in front of you, you're not sending it right really early. Urethane likes that. I mean, I've used urethane all the way left as maybe fourth arrow. I've seen guys do crazy stuff on burn with it as far as getting left. I can't do any of that. I don't have that. I can't trick it enough. So I would say urethane, 1 to 4, fourth arrow probably be your maxed out. And at that point, you're gonna have to give the pocket away some. But I doubt you're swinging the lane too much. I would say for the most part, you're gonna be playing up the lane with it. Again, it's an early rolling bowling ball. It's smooth and it doesn't create a massive left to right shape. A more front to back or, squared up a line will help with that. On the Scorpion ball, from I Have a Gamer Tag. I keep hitting Brooklyn with this ball if it's not missing the head pin entirely. My ball speed is around 14.8 to 15.2 miles an hour. Should I take the 4,000 or 5,000? In general, we're having a ball hooked too much. It's crossing too many boards. Yeah, you can definitely try to take some surface off of it. Try the 4,000, try the 5,000. In general, check to see how it's overhooking. Is it hooking the right part of the lane? Is it getting to your, 40-foot mark, whatever your house shot or the shot you're bowling on? Is it getting to that proper break point? If it is getting to that proper break point and it is simply just overhooking off of it, 2 things you can do. Actually 3 things. Move left, speed up, or ball change. If I see a ball overhooking and I see it still hit my break point the way I want it to play, but it's overhooking, I'm gonna do one of 2 things. I'm either gonna move left to compensate for that hook, or I'm gonna ball change to a ball that hooks in the same area, but it just covers less boards. When you're trying to think of adjustments, think of the overall hook of the ball. If you're trying to create, if your ball hooks 20 boards and you're playing, you sit down on 20, get it to 10, and you get it back to 17 where the pocket is, just say 17. If that's perfect, great. If your ball hooks 25 boards, right, at that area, well, you're not in the right part of the lane or your ball simply hooks too much. Try to make those adjustments. Less surface will help promote length, and it will make the ball hook a teensy bit less just because it's further down lane before it makes its motion. Just pay attention to the ball motion, make sure it's still getting into its roll phase, and make sure it's still picking up in the area of the lane you wanted to pick up at. How does the Hammer Vibe and the X-Ray compare to each other? The Hammer Vibe and the X-Ray are just above entry-level bowling balls. These are bowling balls that even pros throw. It's a lot of entry-level balls like the Raws here. You know, you probably won't see many pros throwing them. These are definitely gonna be balls that are in typical professional arsenals. These are gonna be bowling balls that are weaker. They're gonna cover a little bit less boards. They can create a longer, smoother motion, but in general, they're gonna cover less boards than something like a Blackwood 3.0 or a Conspiracy. How do they compare? I'd say they're pretty similar, honestly. It depends on which one you get. The Vibes, even the solids, are pretty, you know, skid snappy. They're cleaner cover stocks. They do have like medium cores in them, which are good, especially at that price point. But in general, from what I've seen, maybe the Vibes are a little bit stronger than the Hustles, but just barely. The Hustle USA, I mean, it was a hybrid cover stock, but it was a very aggressive cover stock. So it was a little bit more rolly, hooked a little bit more. If you get something like, me personally, the best Hustle in my opinion, ever made was the Hustle Inc. There's a couple 900s thrown with it. That thing was very clean, smooth, and a lot of people enjoyed it on lower volumes. And I feel like maybe the X-Ray or the Arctic Vibe could fit that. Maybe the Arctic Vibe's a little bit more skid flippy for you. You said you like the Sneak Attack Solid. You're looking at the Sneak Attack Hybrid. The Hybrid is definitely a different bowling ball. That was my burn ball. That is what I use to loft the gutter caps. It is that weak of a cover stock. Even for a hybrid, it is very clean and it comes out quite shiny. If you're looking for the Sneak Attack Hybrid, it is, I think, discontinued now. But it is a lot cleaner than the Sneak Attack Solid, which is still a staple in my bag. I think it's in my third or fourth one, and it's gonna continue to stay in my bag because it is just that good. Fix your arm swing with proper timing. This was just a practice session with Ace. We were just practicing, basically. He says, weird to hear less is more when EJ tries to come out of his shoes when he rips through the bowling ball. Is it really EJ not using any muscle at that point? EJ does two things extremely well to get the power he has. One is leverage. I mean, his timing is impeccable, and he can get his body, his arm swing, and his hand in the proper position and create as much revolutions as possible. If you ever watch him, you'll see it upon his release, his elbow's nice and tucked in, his hands behind or inside the bowling ball, and he can come out of it extremely quickly. Like, is he using no muscle? Absolutely not. I mean, we all do, right? But at the same time, in order for him to get all of his power too, it really comes from his legs. I mean, that's where we get a lot of ball speed from. It might look like he's herky-jerky a little bit, and in a way, you know, he is. But at the same time, I mean, he wouldn't be throwing 16 pounds at, you know, he's probably, what, 150 pounds or so, if he wasn't utilizing gravity and leverage to his advantage. Guys like Fagan, those guys really let the ball swing. If you take EJ, you know, it's a little bit less, I mean, it's a little quicker for sure. However, I mean, the guy is, he's a smaller guy, very much like my size, and he can put a lot of power into it. Guys our size don't have the muscle, and if we do, after 20 games of a pro tournament or something like that, we're gonna be burnt out. You know, he definitely doesn't use as much as it might look like, or as you might think. The guy really is able to utilize his foot speed and leverage along with putting his body in the right position in order to create the power he has. That's, if you ever watch him in slow-mo or just pay attention to him after this conversation, just look at, you know, how he gets the ball into the swing, and then also where his body position is at the foul line. Will using urethane ball affect the pattern much on the fresh? Urethane does affect the lanes differently than reactive do. Urethane is a non-porous material. It does not soak up oil. It gets it on the cover stock and then pushes it wherever it wants to push it. With urethane, if, let's just say you're bowling, I don't care what the pattern is, and you have, you know, 6 guys throwing urethane, and let's just say those same 6 guys are throwing reactive on a different pair, right? That pair with urethane is going to play much different than the one with a reactive. The reason for that is as I mentioned, urethane pushes oil. It gets picked up on the cover stock, it doesn't soak into it, and it really likes to track it further down lane. When you're using urethane on a shot, if it's just like 1 out of 6 people throwing it, you might not really see it until maybe like game 3 if it's house or whatever the case may be. But as an extreme version, if everyone's throwing urethane, you're gonna see a lot more carry down. You're gonna carry more oil to the back end of the lane, and you're gonna see your ball have less recovery down lane. In essence, you're basically making the pattern longer. You're gonna have to play it longer. You're gonna have less back ends. If that oil is tracking to the end of the pattern, well, clearly then it has to be taken up from the front of the pattern. If you're using urethane a lot of times they have a lot of surface, and bowling balls will start hooking earlier and start wiggling more down lane. Urethane is fine if you stay in urethane. It's easy to combat that by rolling a little bit more, slowing it down, and a couple other things. But if you were to transition, or maybe you were the one throwing reactive and everyone else throwing urethane, you're gonna see that pattern start again transitioning longer. You're gonna see your ball start wiggling a little bit down lane. And we also see this out of just normal practice. Usually, you know, in league, maybe I'm sure a lot of people have done it. You struck a ton in practice, first shot in league, all of a sudden the ball wiggles and you 210. I just had a great shot, the ball was recovering. Well, you're tracking that oil down lane. Same thing happens with urethane, just in a more extreme manner. Odwin, if you want to talk about that more, just pop in and we can talk about that a little bit. On the cheetah pattern, we did a breakdown on the cheetah pattern. Elias, I just want to point this out. Yeah, Thane is it for sure. On again the cheetah pattern, they said my arsenal is the Hypervenom, Crimson Jackal, and the Primal Shock. Low rev rate, medium speed, one-hander. Which one should I use for this pattern? For cheetah, cheetah is a cool pattern because you can play, you know, 2 different angles for the most part. A lot of people like to start with urethane, which in this case you don't have one. I'd probably say that particular shape is more for urethane, which would be maybe up the lanes a little bit more and get that early roll. With cheetah, which is cool, is you can throw reactive on it. Some shorter patterns, I mean reactive's just locked out. And if it does work, you're not gonna be keeping up with the urethane guys. I would say the Crimson Jackal would be a good ball for that, but a couple of things to think about. Not necessarily ball choice, but maybe setting up the balls to be a little bit better for you. Surface with the cheetah pattern, depending on your rev rate and all that stuff, you can throw reactive. Now you said you're a lower rev rate, medium speed. That's gonna say you're a little bit more speed dominant. You could probably throw more aggressive equipment. I would say, you know, throw your Crimson or your Primal on fresh. I think try to, especially if it's just practice, try some surfacing, try some heavy 500 on one of them. But we want the ball to be hooking early and dead once it hits 35, 37 feet roughly. We really want it to be transitioning into that roll phase a little bit thereafter, but we want that ball to transition in the mid lane as much as possible and very smooth, controllable down lane. I would say, you know, typically an asymmetric solid of some kind is good for that. I've thrown the max bias on cheetah and it worked really, really well because it simply hooked early and didn't do as much down lane. Again, you can accomplish that by using an asymmetric solid, or more in general, a bigger asymmetric with more surface, solids, hybrids, probably not a pearl, but solids hybrid. Chief Joe, well, wait, 15? No, I throw 14. The reason I throw 14 is because I have a wrist of a 50-year-old. I've hurt my wrist a few times throughout the years, college bowling, 4 straight years of 6 to 7 days a week, why overbowled. So I do have some wrist injuries now. Here in the last 6 months or so, I haven't really felt anything wrong. I've been throwing 14 consistently for a year now. Do I wish I could throw 15? Sure, absolutely, but I'd rather not be in pain, especially coming here at 6 in the morning, 7 in the morning, shooting videos. It's a little rough on the body. I just throw 14. The question is, I have the Hammer New and the black urethane. Would you recommend this ball to fit my arsenal? Will the Scorpion fit around or complement those 2 bowling balls? I believe so. I believe they can. If you want to really complement, what I would probably do is put a shorter pin to pap on your Scorpion, maybe 4-inch or something like that. The idea then is to have it a little bit more early rolling and a little bit smoother upon transition. The reason we want that is because that's what those balls do. And if you're trying to create a complement to it, you need some of the similar characteristics, but with it being a reactive resin and with a bigger core than both of those bowling balls, it's going to react different anyway. If you're trying to create a complement, just make sure it's a little bit more orderly rolling, a little bit smoother of a layout, closer pin to pad, maybe higher val, stuff like that will definitely help. So this comment's from Stephen Benton. Just came upon your site, this is great. Are 3M scratch pads like the Scotch-Brite pads better than Avalon pad? In a way, I definitely use them here and there. I don't use them regularly just because I always have Avalon pads on hand. Benefits of them, they don't wear out as fast. I use them, my background is painting cars, so I use surfacing pads and sandpaper a ton throughout my life. With the 3M pads, there's different surfaces to them. I mean, I think the maroon one is like a 180. I probably wouldn't use that one, but if you want to use the gray one, I think that's probably around a 500. Those do work quite well. They don't wear out as fast, and I do think you get a pretty good surface on it. I would say play with them, see if they're much different than Avalon pads, just so you understand the ball reaction, the changes that specific pad will make. But no, you can use them. That's not a problem at all. The biggest thing is just don't go too crazy. Probably don't use the red one. Probably a little too much, but like a gray or the green is probably just fine. I appreciate that comment, Steven. Oh, just shout out to Chris Sadler. I met this guy in Lake Havasu a couple weeks ago in Arizona. Great dude, bowl with him a little bit, a little 9-pin turn league. Great dude. Just curious, the Sneak Attack Solid is at 1500 finish. I think I'm missing a ball like that in my arsenal. This is the Finding Your Mark on Fresh Sneak Attack Solid. Very much like it fits the same realm as like an IQ Tour if you're Stormhead, but it is smooth, controllable, and I know what it does. It's very benchmark-like. Does it work all the time? Absolutely not, but I can always throw it, know what it's going to do, and if it doesn't do what I think it should do, it'll give me a good idea on where to go from there. Sneak Attack Solid, phenomenal. This was on the Cheetah pattern. He said he was going to be bowling on it next week. This was a couple weeks ago, so hopefully you will figure that one out. But you said you don't have urethane, but you do have a new conspiracy pin up. The other bowling balls I'm considering taking is the Black Venom, putting surface on it 500,000 question mark, putting a similar surface on the IQ Ruby and the Exponent. I think either of these will be playable, or is it better to invest into a urethane? If you're an avid bowler and you don't have like crazy low rev rate, I think a urethane is a phenomenal play. Are you going to use it all the time in league? No. It's going to be definitely more of a tournament ball, maybe a sports shop ball. People do throw, don't get me wrong, throw urethanes in league, and they do work sometimes for sure. It's not always what I immediately suggest, simply because urethane is a small group of bowling balls. Knowing how to transition from resin or different resin bowling balls is going to be a little more beneficial for you if the urethane doesn't work. In general, to answer your first question, yes, the conspiracy probably should work. Now, the conspiracy is a very strong bowling ball. I'd probably say put some surface on it. The idea, again, on a cheetah pattern is to be playing a more front to back shape. Now you can stand a little bit further left and throw it at the gutter, which is what defines cheetah a little bit. The pros love it. They can throw ASIMs and really throw it at the gutter with some open angles and really let that ball pick the lane up in the mid lane for sure and be very smooth down lane. I could see the conspiracy working, again, with some surface. Same thing with the Black Venom. Again, probably some surface. Maybe if you want to keep a little bit less after they carry down some, you can do that. But I think the conspiracy probably would be a good idea. The IQ Ruby and the Exponent, I've never had a massive success with sims on short patterns like that. They just continue too much. If I get them in a little bit, they're trucking, they're going left. They don't have the ASIM part to really let set up and roll forward. If you do use them, just pay attention to the continuation when they come off the spot. See how that is. If it's holding the pocket, great. If it's not, then it's probably not gonna be the right ball for you. All right, now that I've answered a lot of your guys' questions, and again, we're gonna try to get better by answering these comments just in the comments rather than doing a video about it. But we're still trying to figure out the whole system. We'll be better at that, but I wanted to at least touch on your guys' questions. You guys have been so supportive, and between Ace and I, we're greatly appreciative of it. But now I got some questions for you guys. What do you want to see on the channel? Is it, obviously the ball reviews do well as far as viewership goes, which means you guys enjoy them. However, I just don't want to be a ball review channel. So if it's 1v1 matches, pot games, more tournament vlogs, actual vlogs themselves, drilling, more educational videos, whatever the case may be, let us know. We want to make sure we design this channel around Obviously, make sure Ace and I have fun. This isn't necessarily a job for us, so we want to make sure we have a good time doing it. But at the same time, make sure you guys can get something out of it and keep bowling at the strong sport it is. Please let me know if you guys have any questions about what we talked about today on any further development. Send me a DM over Facebook, Rev It Up Bowling LLC. This is the Pro Shop Facebook page. You'll see that. Rev It Up Bowling LLC and Anchor, not the other one, LLC. Keep that in mind on YouTube and we can go over those. Outside of that, and we appreciate all the support. We hit 5,000 subs, so that's great for us. I mean, we didn't really have any goals with the channel. We just wanted to have some fun, create some videos, and teach more bowling. You know, if one day we hit, you know, first bowling channel hit 1 million, which I doubt that's ever gonna happen, great. But at the end of the day, I mean, Ace and I are just trying to have a good time. You know, he's hell of an editor, and I just want to, you know, put bowling out there, and yeah, just keep it enjoyable for all of us as much as we possibly can. With that said, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Again, we're at 5,000 subs. Let's try to get that to 10,000, and maybe we'll do a couple little giveaways or something. With that said, my name's Jason Robarge. This is Rev It Up Bowling. Much love. Peace.